Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Conversation with Myuze. Today's episode is going to be about creativity. I have an amazing guest on the show, a longtime friend. We went to school together. She's an author and she has published several books. So help me welcome to the show, Chelsea. Hi, Chelsea.
Hey, Mo, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for agreeing to come on. How are
Thank you
you?
for having me. I'm doing good. It's so nice to see you.
Oh, you too. It's been years, but like on social media we'll keep up, but like not us like
Right.
physically seeing each other. All right, Chelsea. So I do love to play this little icebreaker game for all of our guests. So I'm going to jump into that. It's this or that. So you'll tell me what you prefer out of this or that. You don't have to give me a
Okay.
reason or anything, but it's like a rapid fire. All right.
Okay.
Do you prefer movies or books? Well, simple, but for you, not the author, but for you, do you prefer movies or books?
Movies.
Coffee or tea?
Ooh, tea.
Okay. A chill night at home or out having fun?
Chill night at home.
Instagram or Twitter?
Mm. Instagram.
Okay. Do you like summer or winter better?
Summer.
And then I'll just do this one, IG or Facebook?
Facebook got more drama, so Facebook.
Facebook has more drama. I love it. And then the last one, oh my gosh, do you prefer call or text?
Mm, Text me.
Text you. All right. Thank you so much. And then we'll just jump right into it. Let's go. So where are you now?
I am in Houston, Texas.
Hey.
I know I became a Texan. I can't believe it. But I just decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give my writing like literally my all. And
Mhm.
I wanted to move to like a different city, which is like, I know it's super far from Florida, but
Yeah.
I was just like, you know what? Hey, I only have one life to live. So I'm going to give it my all and just move and go.
Oh my God. So how long have you been in Texas?
Almost a month now. Almost
Oh,
a
so it's like
month.
new. Oh my gosh. This is
Yeah.
fun.
Yes. And I love it. It reminds me so much of home, minus
Mm-hmm.
like the traffic part.
Mm-hmm.
But like the culture, the food and stuff like that, the diversity and everything, it literally reminds me of home.
Oh, that's amazing. So obviously, I know you, but give our guests a little bit inside of who is Chelsea and who you are and what you do, a premise, so we can kind of flow into our conversation.
Okay. Well, hi everybody. My name is Chelsea Maria. That's what I pin under. And I am an author of Black romance. So that means I write basically like all Black type of love stories, contemporary romance, urban romance, anything centered around Black love. I am an author of that. And I've been a published author now for 3.5 years. I have 16 books under my title so far. I am self-published and I am out here doing what God called me to do, and I had living my best life. So,
Oh, that's amazing. Self-published. So I'm going to get into a little bit about what that means later into the
okay.
show, but I'm super geeked. Here's why, because back maybe around high school days, around that time, going into
Mhm.
college, I'm an avid reader of these stories, like Black love stories. So my favorite author is Eric Jerome Dickey. Rest his soul. He passed last
Right.
year.
Yeah.
But when I saw that you were writing, I remember the first time I saw that you published something. You're on Amazon, so I download all
Mhm.
the stuff, and I'm just like, I have to support. This is so
Thank
amazing.
you.
Now, tell us, give us a little bit background about how you got into writing. How did that come about, and how did you became a writer? Was that something that you always wanted to be?
Actually, no, it was not. I had no idea. Like, I love journaling a lot.
Hmm.
Even when we were in high school, I had like notebooks. I would just write, like stories, just made up stories off my mind, off the events that happened while I was at Piper, like literally, because
Okay,
Piper was a show every day.
it
So
was.
I would tell the stuff that I experienced and stuff, and just writing my notebooks, like little, just little stories here and there.
Hmm.
But it wasn't until I was in college that I was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna kind of see, like if I could write a full story, and it was just for my entertainment, like literally my entertainment, and that was it. And I wrote it, kept it in my notebook, never touched it after that. And I was back home again, probably like some odd years later. And I was reading. I became an avid reader to like this world of like urban romance. I
Okay.
loved it. And I was in this period of my life where I was like searching for my purpose. I was like, what am I supposed to do with my life? What am I supposed to do with myself? Like, what is my calling? Because I had dropped out of college. I didn't want to go back to school. I had a good job with the county, but it still was unfulfilling for me. And so one of my favorite authors at the time, B. Love, she opened up her publication company. I was like, you know what? I said a big prayer. I was like, Lord, you know, if this is in your hands, we're going to see what happens. Yeah. So I submitted a manuscript, like literally a story that I wrote so long ago. And I got picked up for it. And I was like, oh my God. Like, okay,
oh, that's exciting.
Like, so excited. I was like, wow, like, I'm really about to do this. And literally, like, I got signed in October of 2018. And my first book came out January of 2019. And it was like literally like it's been a roller coaster ever since.
Oh my gosh. Like, so you kind of just said, okay, let me just step out on a limb here. And you said your job was in accounting, but you weren't fulfilled from that?
Oh no, like I was working for the county of
Broward County. Okay.
So like I was a property appraiser. Like, you know, like I would go around, you know, appraising the properties for commercial. And I knew I didn't want to do that forever. Yes. Like, no offense. The job did what it was supposed to do in my time that I was there. But I just knew I was too creative to just sit still and just work for somebody else. My mind was way too creative, too active. Like, I'm at work and I'm writing down stories. So, yeah. And literally,
like... That's amazing. That's amazing. I hear these stories a lot of people, you know, finding their purpose. And even when you told me that you moved, I was just like, wait, what?
Listen,
stepping out
nobody
your comfort
knows.
Zone. Oh my gosh, breaking news then. Hey.
Right? Everybody said, like, my family, because, you know, they were still shocked. They was like, what? Like, you have nobody out there. It's just you. I said, I know. But
sometimes that's what it takes. That's amazing. Yeah. That's the creativity I'm loving. Now, you mentioned earlier that you've published, 19 books thus far?
16 books.
16 books. How challenging is the writing and well, not even the writing. We'll get into the writing, but how challenging is it to publish your first book? So I know that you submitted and Be Love's a company, but how challenging is it for anyone, and especially you, to publish your first book?
Honestly, it's not as hard as people think. I thought it was going to be super hard, but the only hard part of it is actually writing the story. Okay. Which that's on you as the individual. But the actual process from start to finish is really not hard. It's just a matter of one, knowing what platform you want to self-publish on. You know, right now, Kindle is it. Everybody has Kindle. Everybody has, you know, Amazon Kindle. Nook kind of is still there, but it's not as big as Amazon. And it's free to sign up, free to upload your book. Like, you don't have to pay anything to, you know, get your book out there. It's just a matter of you actually writing a book and putting it out there. So I would say the hardest part for anybody is just writing a book. Once you write that book, you're all set to go. Like, now you're an author, you finish, you hit the end or to be continued, you know, however it is. But the hardest part is just writing. The easy part is uploading it and getting it out there for everybody to read it.
Okay, so that makes sense. But is there a difference between, well, I'm sure there is a difference, but what is the difference between getting publication via a digital platform, such as like Amazon, you said, versus actually getting your book in a bookstore, like getting a physical touch book published to the bookstore? Is it the same publication process and then printing is different, or what does that look like?
Well, the contracts are different. There we go. In that sense. Well, if you're self-publishing, you don't have to worry about a contract because that's all on you. But as far as like ebook goes, now if you want to do actual like physical copies to like stores and stuff like that, there are like different like third parties that you do have to kind of do like a distribution deal with to get your books into the stores. So right now, there isn't a way for you to kind of like just like, here, can you put my book in your store? But it's easier if you want to put your books in libraries than it is in stores, because again, you have to have that distribution deal to have it in a store. Library, you can just be like, hey, I want to donate, or can you guys, you know, pick up my book, and they'll do that. But yeah, self-publishing ebook is kind of easier and you get full control over your money.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely say like if somebody is starting out, to go the ebook route, only because it's so much easier, especially with technology nowadays. People are really reading everything from their phones, from their
Yeah.
tablets, from their computers.
Yeah.
Um, Now, if you want to go like distribution, make sure that you read your contracts. Make sure you read because sometimes you may think you're only signing a distribution deal, but some of those contracts have it to where they have the copyrights of your books.
Yes.
So yeah, you want to be careful that you're only doing this to have distribution in the stores, like Walmart, Barnes and Nobles, things like that. But understand there's going to be a cut in the middle. They're going to want their
Yeah.
cut for putting your book in their store. So, you're not really in control of all of that. But I haven't gone that route just yet, only because um, Amazon has it to where you can purchase your books in paperback at like a discounted rate, like a wholesale rate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sell them on my website versus, I'm putting them in the stores. Great, you get more eyes on your books.
Yes.
But right now, because I still feel like I'm kind of new to all this, even though I've been 3 years in the game, but I'm still kind of new. And I prefer to have like where I can literally sign your name in my book, thank you
Oh,
for even
yeah, like a little
purchasing it.
message. Yeah.
Yeah, building that relationship. So when y'all do see me in this store, y'all can be like, oh, that's Chelsea.
That's just
There
really,
we go.
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So this was outside of my scope of questions, but you touched on something as far as like getting more eyes on the book. And
Mm-hmm.
how hard is it right now for you, or if it's hard at all, because for some people it isn't, to market your current, like, I would say catalog of books. Is
Mm-hmm.
that what you call books? Catalogs? Okay.
Yeah,
Because I
catalog.
know like music would be catalogs, but yeah, how hard is it to kind of market or just put yourself out there to advertise for people to go on Amazon to purchase or even download? How hard is that for you?
I'm gonna be honest, it's hard.
Okay.
Only because I won't say it's an oversaturated market, but because I feel like everybody has their own lane. Like I write like how Chelsea Maria writes. I don't write
Mm-hmm.
like this next person. So I created my own lane, but it is a very oversaturated market. And at the same time, it kind of isn't because depending on what you write.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your question, you really have to, it is hard. And there are books dropping literally every day, multiple books. So you're trying to not necessarily compete, but also get your name out there in the same sense of, hey, I know this person dropping. Can you read my book too?
Yes. Yes.
And it's, yeah, you got to be consistent. You got to show up. You got to put yourself out there, which, listen, I just wanted to be the author when I first started. I just wanted to be
Yeah.
like, hey, this is my book, put it out there and just let the fairies take care of it. I didn't want to handle no promotion, no marketing. Like, I was like, no. But then, my publisher, she was like, if you don't sell your book, then who's going to, how people going to know about you?
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and that's one of the things I had to realize, like the hardest person going for me, it has to be myself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I have very, very faithful readers that read everything I drop, but there are other readers who don't know about me, and those are the people that I'm trying to reach as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, when people ask me to do all these book discussions, and granted, I like to stay behind the camera, but you got to show up because you want people to read your book and you have to be your biggest fan. Like you
Yeah.
have to be your biggest supporter, your biggest motivator. And that's what I had to learn. Like even though I'm under a publisher name, she's only doing so much on what she can do. I
Yeah.
have to literally do the rest.
Yeah.
And that is social media engagement. I just want to post my pictures and go.
Right?
I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah. It's the branding behind it.
I
It's just
can't.
like
Oh
advertising.
my gosh. Like marketing, and I don't know how people do this. I'm like, this is a full-time job. Like, figuring out the algorithms, but it's so thrilling when you see your hard work pays off. Like when
Yeah.
you see that, you be like, you know what, I worked hard. I did, especially now as a self-published author, because I literally do everything. My
Mm-hmm.
graphics, my marketing, my ads, like the whole nine, my email campaigns, like everything. I have a greater respect and love for my art now because I'm literally in the driver's seat of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so pleasing because my hard work and dedication of putting myself out there, even when I'm uncomfortable,
Yes.
it's paying off to where I'm literally like enjoying what I'm doing now. Not saying I did it, but it's more pleasing because I'm like, yo, I worked hard for that.
And you feel a little bit more fulfilled, right?
Yeah, yeah, like I'm doing this, like I
Yeah.
tell people all the time, if I'm not confident in anything else, I'm confident in knowing I can write a book.
Ooh, you better say that, girl. You said something that really stuck with me just now. You said, if I'm not my biggest fan, then who's going to be, right? So, yes,
Right,
you have the tools behind you, but if you the person that's actually, like you said, in the driver's seat, or it's your thing, it's if it's my product, I can't expect someone else. Like, if I have my product of maybe a phone, I can't say, oh, Chelsea's going to push it for me. It's just like, it's not Chelsea's product, it's not her job. Like, you
right.
have to believe in your product. I love that. Oh my gosh. So I
Yeah.
do want to transition a little bit into writing. You said you wrote your first book in college. Well, you kind of wrote it and tucked it away, right?
Hmm.
What is the process now? 3 years in the game. What is the process now with writing? Like, do you have a process, or what? Yeah, let's start there. Do you have a process for writing?
I do have a process. So I get inspired like literally through the most random places. Like I was in the mall yesterday and just overhearing people conversations, I got ideas for books. So I get inspired literally just by everyday life, conversations of my friends, my family, music, everything. And I literally like the idea that starts with the book, it turns into my outline. Now it takes me a while to outline only because I'm very detailed. Like I'm all about the character development, building that character development because I want when you pick up my book, I want you to be able to feel the emotions, feel everything. Like I want you to literally feel like you're watching a movie, like you're in the scenes with my character. So I have to build that character development off rip. Like I have to be like, okay, this is what I want to have then. And usually I'm inspired, like I said, by everyday life. I turn those inspirations into an outline of a book. Once my outline is done, then that's when I reach out to my graphic designer, and
Mm-hmm.
she's the one who does my covers for me, my book covers.
Okay.
Book covers are essential to writing a book
Mm.
because let me tell you something: if you have a book that is not so eye catching, even though they may know your name, they may skip over it
The story is
because
not presented on the front. Oh, that is good.
right,
Okay, got you,
the
got you.
whole package has to like from the title of the book, like especially depending like what category you write in. Like if you write like urban romance, right now the big thing is like my savage loves me, something
Mm-hmm,
like that.
mm-hmm.
Like Thug Me Out Bay or whatever. But
Yeah.
something catchy,
What if
to
that?
what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah. And so if the title and your cover is like on point, like you good to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually where I'm at. I'm like, okay, I got my outline done, I got my book cover done. Now it's time to actually write. Now that process can take anywhere from a month to 2 months. It all
Mm-hmm.
depends on the length of my books. My books are pretty lengthy now. They're like anywhere from 80,000 words to over 100,000 words.
Mm-hmm.
That's long.
But what? So pause here for a second. What does that mean in the grand scheme of things? So I told you one of my favorite authors that I used to. So the book is about this thing. Um, well, how many chapters is that? Because a lot of these books, some of the chapters are maybe like 4 pages, and then there's chapters that are like 17 pages, 32 chapters. About when you say those numbers, what does that mean in like chapters or the size of the book?
Now, I wouldn't compare it to chapters because it really all depends on how the author styles her books as
Got
far
you.
as like the interior. Because you can have 100,000 word book, but you can only have 10 chapters.
Got
That
you.
means she groups her chapters together for however she wants that to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of the thickness, that's like a 400 page book, like it's thick.
Okay. Got you.
Um, yeah, and in the world of self publishing, especially when it comes to ebooks, the longer your word count, the more money you make. Like that's literally how it goes.
Oh.
Because they're reading more. We get paid per page swiped, that the readers
Okay.
read. So you have a bigger word count, you got more pages. More pages equals more pages swiped.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it
Got
all
you.
comes down to to the adding and subtracting of how this works.
Mm-hmm.
Now I won't say like the books that are less don't sell because they do. It all depends, like I said, on your marketing, on how you
Mm-hmm.
present your book. But I do know like you're a person like me and a few others who release maybe 3 or 4 books a year, maybe more. when you have those long books, it makes up for those gaps that you're not releasing as frequently as other people.
Yes. So for you were in your regimen of how you write. Based on what your graphic designer comes back with, does that then change character development, or you just say, "Hey, this is character development. This is your inspiration," and go off of this, and then you kind of once you get your visuals back, you said, "Okay, I feel a little bit better about what I'm about to write," and then that builds you, or does that? How does the two coordinate?
Now it does coordinate like that sometimes, like where, like she'll send me back something, like I'll send her my ideas first of all. Like I'm like, okay, this is what I'm writing. This is where I kind of like, like just say like, my next release, I'm doing about, like this girl, she's very, dark skinned. I want her to be, like very Afrocentric, whatever, or if I want a couple on the cover. So I'll send her my ideas. She'll send it back. Now, sometimes, as of lately, what she sends me, I love because she's great at what she does. And it'll turn into another story because I'm like, ooh, wait, like this, like it'll spark an idea for another story. So then now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna keep this one, but for another story. So I need you to go back to the drawing board, and get what I want. So it's
You're
really
giving
like
her more work,
like
Chelsea. You're giving her more work.
I know, but she loves it because hey, that's her job. But,
true, yeah.
For me, it's like now I have like this arsenal of covers I haven't used yet because. I'm like, oh, wait, I can use this for another story, and sometimes that's literally how it is because the graphic designers like that I work with, they release covers, like these pre-made covers to us, all the time because like I said, like there are authors releasing every day. So they know covers are in high demand.
Yeah.
So when you see something like you literally got to snatch it up and use it literally like that because that same model can be used. Next thing you know, you're like, dang, I just purchased this cover, but I see this girl on this other cover.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a twofold thing. Like, yeah, I got this nice cover, but I got to hurry up and use it because if another graphic designer comes across the same model, then I can't really use it.
And then the author just takes it up. So that's interesting. And you mentioned that your books are getting longer and longer, and you just recently wrote one of your biggest books, well, your longest books, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh. Like, the book started out, I wrote the first, well, it was like it was almost like a snippet of sense. Like my publisher had asked us to do an anthology. So I just used a character. It was like 2 years ago in an anthology, just to write something short. But people loved the male character that I used. So the year before last year, I was like, you know what? I'm going to turn it into like a full story. It started with one book, went into 2 books, turned into a series. That last book, my Lord, it was, I want to say like almost like 150,000 words. My longest book to date, 150,000 words. Now, I wrote the whole series during the pandemic. And, and thank God, like some authors, they couldn't write because,
writer's block and no creativity. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I wrote my best work ever. And I thank God for that because that series literally took my career from where I was to where it is now. And people like, but like, what happened? My fan base grew.
Yes.
Like substantially, just off of that series alone, because I got to tap into this creative side of me that I never knew existed. And I wrote this book about brothers, based out of in Miami, the drug game. But and that long book, I reaped the harvest of that book. I really did, and I still am. I thank God for that.
That's amazing.
And listen, and if anybody wants to write a long book, I encourage you, take your time. It took me, I want to say about 3 months to write it. And that was with the pandemic going on. I'm working from home at the time. But when you want something, you put your dedication into it and your motivation.
Absolutely.
It will come out to be literally everything you want to be. So even though I wasn't panicking on the outside to everybody about the pandemic, I channeled all my emotions in that book, and it resulted. Yeah, and it came out to be my best work. So
that's awesome because for pandemic for a lot of us was, like you said, it's the stress, the anxiety, and I know for creators like yourself, writer's block is real. And you're saying you got the
For
opposite
real.
of that in COVID, well, in the
Right.
pandemic. And even for musicians, a lot of them during that time, they weren't putting out music because again, it's that creativity and that writer's block. And
Hmm.
for some of your stories, there's so many. I'm gonna ask you for your top five, and I don't know if you can pick
Okay.
between your babies, but I'm gonna ask you for your top five. But do you plan on turning any of these stories into like a series, like a play, or kind of like web series or anything like that?
I've actually been thinking about like a web series
Hmm.
or almost like a podcast series because I've got into like listening to so many like, the crime series on
Yes,
podcasts. And it's
yes.
interesting how visual you are when you listen to this stuff. I'm like, you
Mm-hmm.
know what?
Mm-hmm.
This is the way to go. Because again, I mean, like who's driving and also on YouTube trying to watch a video, but you can drive or
And
do whatever you're
listen.
working and listen.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So that has kind of piqued my interest a lot lately. Now as far as like movies and stuff like that, of course that's like a dream of mine. Like if Tyler Perry or anybody today asked me, "Hey, can I turn your book?" You can have it. Yeah, just cut me my
Take
check and run me my money.
it.
But
Take the
yes, that
story.
is right. Yes, that is a dream of mine. To one day have any one of my books turned into a movie or a podcast series, anything, just to see my work elevate from where it is now. Yes,
Hmm.
I would love to see it.
Oh, that's amazing. For your top five, I have a list of questions, but I feel like I want to veer away from that. Nothing crazy, but what are your top five books that you have written to date?
Okay, so my top five would be the first one I released, which is For You I Will.
Yes, which is the one
Um,
I downloaded. I have it, trust me. And I just haven't finished because reading is been back burner, but
I know.
continue.
um, that one, that was off the rip. My first one will always be number one. For You I Will. Why Don't We Fall in Love?
Hmm.
Our Type of Love.
Our type of love, yep.
Yeah, All I Ask of You, which is that last big book that I just
Hmm.
written, and Champagne Wishes, which is the one I just dropped in January.
My Heart Is Your Secret was also another one that I downloaded too.
Oh, yes,
My Heart Is Your Secret. I
yes.
downloaded that one. That's good. Well, who is your favorite character that you have that you've developed in the since you've been writing? Who's your favorite character?
Ooh, I got two.
Yeah.
Um, so my first one would be Andrea from my first book, which is For You I Will.
Yeah.
Um, that whole series, I'm not series, but that whole book right there is very special to me because one, it is my first published book.
Hmm.
Listen, I got suspended writing that book at work.
Oh my god, because you're on your job, like doing your creative
Right.
stuff.
Yes. And I wrote on a notepad. That's the crazy thing about it. And they didn't even know the notes were about. I'm like,
Hmm.
because they said I was using company policies. Whatever. I
Oh
don't work there no more, so I
wow.
don't care. But
What?
um listen, that's how I knew that book was gonna be special.
Hmm.
But that book right there set the tone for me as an author.
Yeah.
Only because I went a different route than people usually do. Like my main character, she was autistic.
Hmm.
And her husband is, he's a music producer. So trying to combine these two different worlds, in love was very challenging. I do a lot of research, but I wanted to just show that there are so many different elements to love. Like there are
Hmm.
so many different elements to how we love. And I got to do that with her. Like I literally created my lane as where I am now. We were starting with her character because one, she's autistic, but she's Tess is high on the spectrum. She's very smart. Her love for God
Mm.
and people and just everything. I really got to be super creative with her. Um, and then my second favorite one would be from that thick book we were talking about. All I Ask of You, Emil Kalman. He is my favorite character, probably more favorite to her, but I'll put them two together because he stressed me out.
The
Man, and,
character
and people are
stressing
like, girl,
you
how can the
out.
character stress you out? They can because like when you try to develop these perfect people, and he's
Yes.
not perfect by any means necessary. But when you're trying to develop these characters and try to portray them as real to you as the readers,
Mm-hmm.
it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of creativity. And he challenged every area of my life. He challenged me mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Like I had to
Wow.
channel so many, like, you know, I understand now how actors feel when they have to take on these dark roles because his past was so dark as a child. And
Okay.
I'm
And
like,
you had to tap into that as the
I had
writer.
to tap into that, like literally tap into his dark childhood and trying to get out of that space when I wrote that. Like it took me months to write a book after that. Like I could not, like I'm like, y'all, like,
Wow.
I am exhausted. Like I'm mentally, people like, why are you depressed? I had to go depressed because he's depressed right now.
Wow.
Yeah, like I had to channel every emotion like there was, like the darkest of dark things. Like I'm like, good Lord, I can't
Oh
do
my.
this on an everyday basis, but I had to because I wanted to deliver the art that I knew I could. I just had to mentally go
Go
there.
there. Oh my gosh. Insert the mind blown emoji because that was going to be my follow-up question to who's your favorite character as to how far do you have to go to develop some of these characters, because it seemed
Oh
easy to be like,
man.
okay, she's going to be a female in her 20s in Miami, because one of the things that I like to, and this is it's somewhat meshes, right? Because
Mhm.
when, for me, marketing is the thing. And I always talk to brands about building your customer persona, is knowing who your audience is so you can target
Right.
that person. So for you, it's building a character. So when I'm telling a brand to build your avatar or your customer persona, it's okay, who is she? What does she do? What does she like? Like, paint that person. But for you,
Mm-hmm.
painting a person is you have to think about their ideology, or like you said, go into their childhood and going into a depressed state because someone is in that dark. How challenging is that for you as a writer?
Oh, Mo girl, listen. It's super challenging, especially if you never dealt with that
Yeah.
on your own, or even if you have and it brings up triggers.
Yes.
Um, and he was a child. He was like I'm gonna use him for example. He was abused as a child. Father abused him. I wasn't abused as a child, so I'm trying to channel these emotions because I want to paint a picture. So
But then
now
for
you're trying to.
sorry, but then for research purposes, do you also reach out to people that have been through some of these things,
I
or
have.
okay.
I have one of my books, Untitled Love, the character, she dealt with a miscarriage. I reached out to one of my cousins that I knew that had a miscarriage, and I used her angst and her sorrows and her anger for how she felt
Mhm.
and channeled it in that book. So of course I had to feel that as if I lost a child, and people tell me like, girl, I can feel these emotions. Yeah, you can, because I put all that in there, because I wanted you
Yes.
to feel. But yeah, a lot of the things, like if I haven't experienced it, or if somebody I know, like very close,
Mhm.
that's how I get into, watching a lot of documentaries too.
Mm.
I watch a lot of documentaries or a lot of like conversations. Like if you just hear people over talking about how, girl, let me tell you what this man did. I ain't never dealt with that situation, but I'm hearing you talk about it, and I'm taking
Yeah.
how you feel when you talking about your friends. So I take all that and I put it in myself, and I'm releasing it through pen and paper, which is almost like I live there.
Yes. Yes.
And but yeah, channeling that emotion, it is mentally exhausting. Like it is emotionally exhausting. Like I am very skeptical right now to channel like a rape victim because I
Mm.
can't go there mentally. Like
Mm.
I'm not saying like it's just like I feel like that would really just kind of like woo, like just
Yeah.
wipe me out right now.
Yeah.
And
Because
like there
once
are
you
just some
build,
things, yeah.
yeah, because once you build some of these characters, like you said, it's just like for us, the readers, right? Because I'm on that
Mhm.
end. I think about you authors and I'm like, how do they know this? How precise you guys get? And obviously we understand research, but sometimes you guys write to the T. So like you're saying, these male characters, you're female and you're building these strong male characters. And it's just like, oh my gosh, yes, we know we have dads and brothers and uncles and stuff, but tapping into that as an author, for us, the users or the listeners, we're just like, oh my gosh, how does this person know that? So for you, it's kind of like you have to do that research. You have to go there and you have to just kind of prepare yourself mentally. And I would never think some of what you're telling me is just, like I said, insert mind blown emojis, because it's just like, wait, what? There's so much going to, we see authors, we see you guys, and it's just like you publish, and I expect my author to put a book out every year. Or the moment I finish
Right.
one, it's like I finish a book. No, so I need another one. Where's the next book? But is there pressure on creating and releasing content for you?
Oh, absolutely. Because my peers, I have a lot of peers that release, like I said, every month. And I'm sitting here like, girl, I'm only on chapter 5 of writing this story, and how you released another book already. But again, that just, I had to learn that everybody's journey in this walk is different.
Yes.
Some people are quick writers. Some people are only, some people write only short books. And that's no different. That's not taken away from their craft. That's just what they do. And I had to realize, like, what Chelsea does is what Chelsea does, and stay in your lane about that.
Yes.
But I'm always like, when people host classes, on how to write, better and stuff, I'm always joining these classes so I can improve myself. But yes, there is stress, because then, like, just say my last book dropped in January. I have DMs from readers. Ma'am, I'm not trying to rush you, but can we hurry up and get the next book? Or in my readers group on Facebook, so about that book,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because the
So
people, we want this. We want the content.
Right. And it's motivation for me, as an author, because, sometimes you get in your own head and you're like, dang, like maybe, like maybe they forgot about me. And it's not that. They're just waiting. And it gives me motivation, to keep going, to keep being a creative, because there are people who genuinely love my stories. So.
Yes. That's amazing. You spoke about a Facebook group that you have. What is the next project that you're working on? And or do you have like a book club also that people can kind of join? Or tell us about your Facebook group. But let's start with, what is your next big project that you're working on? I know you just released something in January. We're in May, so the readers, I'm sure, are due for something.
Absolutely.
So what is the next big thing that you're the next thing that you're working on that you want us to kind of look out for?
Yeah, so I have upcoming release. I pray it comes out next month. Yeah, I'm trying my hardest to get it out for next month. But it is the continuation of the novella I dropped in January, which was just like a thin little book. But I wanted to do it to kind of gauge, to see if people wanted to I guess you can kind of say, like, I wanted to see like the reaction of people, like to see if because it was different for me. I never wrote a novella. I never wrote in third person. So I kind of just wanted to test the waters, and I did it. And now they want the full book. So that's what I'm writing. And that should drop next month, Lord willing, it will. And then I have a Facebook group on Facebook. It's called Love on the Low with Chelsea Maria.
Okay.
I talk all things books there. You get sneak peeks there, everything, like first dibs on seeing my covers before everybody else. And we just talk in there. It's almost like a girls group. We just talk about any and everything, or other books that we read, and just stuff like that. So you can find me on Facebook in my Facebook group, Love on the Low with Chelsea Maria. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as Chelsea Maria too. So you can find me on there.
Oh, that's amazing. So I'm going to join the group because I'm not in the group. I have your books, so I support there. It's so much happening. One thing I did want to round up the conversation with is, what is the best advice that you've gotten? And I don't want to, generally I leave it to life, but I want to scale it down to being an author. What is the best advice you've gotten in that realm? And what is an advice that you'll give to somebody?
The best advice somebody has ever told me was to remember my why. Remember my why to why I create, because it's so easy to get caught up in the assumption of trying to compare yourself to other people, trying to take on their identity because you see their success and you're like, I worked as hard as they have, like my book, is this and that, and theirs is this and that. And you get your mind just goes haywire. But I have to remember my why. And my why is I'm different than everybody else. I'm Chelsea Maria. I'm writing what I want to write. I'm writing what this is what I want to do. You know, my why isn't to be like everybody else. My why isn't to be better than anybody else. I'm still competing with me from 2019.
Ooh,
I'm
I
my
like
own
that.
competition. So my why is, why did I set out to write? You know, like I came in here wanting to share my testimony in the form of love stories, because I feel like as women, we need outlets sometimes, and reading is a very good outlet to have.
Absolutely.
But to see and read stories that connect with, how can I say, like stories that connect with what I'm going through, you know, that are very similar to the things that I deal with, that is encouraging to say, girl, you came out of it. Yes, I did. So my why is going to be different than somebody else's. And that's what literally keeps me going. It's like, okay, my why isn't her why. That's her why. So I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm going to write what I want to write. I am in full control. And I'm bombing what I do. That's my why. Like,
you better say that again. You better say that again. That is
so this is my why.
And then what advice would you give to someone, to anyone? Any advice that you would give to someone?
Well, I know there are a lot of people who want to write a book. I get that a lot. Like, I want to write a book. How do I start? And that's literally, how do you start? Write the book. Don't give in to your fears. Like, literally, don't feed your fears, don't feed your worries, don't feed your doubts, because nothing comes to a dreamer but a dream. And if you have the idea, that idea came to you for a reason. God doesn't just give us ideas just for us to have in our heads. He gives us those so we can literally act upon it, because you never know what your story might do for somebody else. And yes, it may be fiction, but we take a lot from fiction and we apply it to our lives. Little do we know it not. Like, we're inspired by music. Half of the time, people talking, rapping about it have not lived that life.
No, you're right.
But we're inspired by it. So you don't know, like, what your stories can do for other people. You don't know, you know, like, you being silent is not helping anybody. You know, help yourself grow as an individual and actually do what you want to do, because we only got one life to live. Like, I literally quit my job. I was working for the county for over 6 years. And I finally said yes to me, yes to following my dreams, yes to actually wanting to create and have the life that I desire. And I said yes to doing that. And I am flourishing because of it. So to anybody that want to write a book or anything that you want to do in life, the first step starts with you. You have to put on your shoes and say, I'm going to do this. And know that you got to try with people behind you. Even if you don't, I love you. And you got this.
You got this. That is perfect.
Yes.
Now, Chelsea, tell us where, you already told us, but say it one more time for everyone, where they can find you on social media or contact you for anything.
On Facebook, you can find me in my readers group on Love on the Low with Chelsea Maria. And I have an author page on there. It's Chelsea Maria. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter. Even on TikTok, I don't make no videos, but I follow as Chelsea Maria. My website is being reconstruction, but it is chelseamaria.com. And yeah, that's how you can get in touch with me.
Yeah, and you can search her on Amazon.
Oh yeah, on Amazon Kindle as Chelsea Maria.
Yes.
And you'll see my whole catalog of books.
And go ahead and download. Chelsea, I appreciate you for being here. This was such an amazing conversation. Guys, go ahead and check her out. Again, these are stories, and if you are anywhere in that creative space, this is something that you guys should definitely check out. Thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you for listening. If you guys are listening to the audio of this, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're on YouTube and you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel, like, share, tell a friend about us, and I'll see you next time here on Conversation with Myuze. Bye.